questions down on those cards, and then we're going to have people come around and collect them at the end of the presentation. And we're going to do our very best to have everybody's question read aloud, and our panelists will answer the questions that way. So, without further ado, it's my privilege and honor to introduce this extremely knowledgeable and very distinguished panel we have here tonight. So, first speaking, we'll have Evangeline Monroe. And Evangeline is a retired Foreign Service officer whose first tour of duty was as a visa officer. She took a systematic look at immigration in 2005 when mass demonstrations protested failed legislative efforts to convert immigration misdemeanors to felonies. She's taught immigration at Ocher at Dartmouth 7 times, and she's going to describe why our immigration system is broken, the commitments to fixing it, the importance of assimilation, and benefit to the country of immigration. And then we're going to have Eva Castillo, and she is the director of the New Hampshire Alliance of Immigrants and Refugees. And NHA is the only immigrants' rights organization in New Hampshire and is involved with advocacy, legislation, inclusion, and funding. She's a native of Venezuela and a former police commissioner in Manchester, New Hampshire, and has a long history of involvement in U.S. immigration issues. So Ms. Castillo will share stories of immigrants without documents here in New Hampshire, raising families, paying taxes, and they're suddenly apprehended for deportation. And then speaking will be Esma Elkhani, and Esma is the lead organizer for United Valley Interfaith Project. So UVMP, I think a lot of you know, is comprised of 15 faith communities of the Buddhist, Jewish, and Christian traditions in our local area that work together with broader community on issues of social justice. So Ms. Elkhani will discuss what it's like to grow up as a Muslim female wearing a hijab in America. And she became a naturalized citizen 25 years ago. But it's going to discuss how immigration discrimination is not new, and it's not limited to immigrants without documents. Kate Semple-Varda is a founder and attorney for the Welcoming All Nationalities Network of the Upper Valley. One provides immigration legal assistance in humanitarian immigration cases. His clients are residents of New Hampshire and Vermont, primarily here in the Upper Valley, and most are survivors of domestic violence and persecution. So Ms. Varda will speak about the challenges of navigating the U.S. immigration system and the work of Juan in the Upper Valley. And last but not least, we have Rodman, who's the Executive Director of UVIP. Mr. Webb will discuss how UVIP has partnered with organizations across New Hampshire and pushed back hard against the immigration policies and practices of the current administration. He's going to share some concrete actions that we all can take to engage in immigrant justice work being done by UVIP and partnering organizations, including Granite State Organizing Project, American Friends Service Committee, and New Hampshire Alliance of Immigrants and Refugees. So let's give a please a warm welcome to our panel.
Thank you. I'm really happy to see so much interest in this topic. You've all seen pictures, the terrible, terrible scenes. You've heard cries, I'm sure. I'm not going to dwell on that, but I do want to add a little bit of perspective, because how we react to immigrants, to migrants, to refugees, to asylum seekers is really terribly important to who we are. Sorry. It's really terribly important to who we are as Americans and how the rest of the world sees us. First of all, I think it's really important to say that crossing the border without permission is a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. These aren't criminals. And we have an international obligation to refugees and asylees and to treat them humanely. We also have U.S. laws that regulate who can be an asylum seeker. And you do not have to come across an official border point to claim asylum. I've always thought that immigration should be consistent with our values. It should be responsive to our needs, and it should be enforceable. Unfortunately today, that isn't what we have. So I want to start talking about values first. I think the outcry over this terrible, terrible scene at the border and the fact that they took these children without any apparent provision to return them to their parents. These are children, these are human children, these aren't criminals. That is unbelievable. I just find it very hard to understand, and I'm sure that a good part of the country finds it hard to understand because, in fact, it isn't consistent with our values. So, what really distinguishes Americans are the values as expressed for the first time in our founding documents, in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. But there are other people who don't agree with that. They would say that our values really depend on what they would call blood and soil. You heard those cries in Charlottesville, and the president repeats that. Basically, that's a dog whistle for racism. I do not believe that that represents American values, but there's a very strong and ugly clash between these two viewpoints. And it isn't the first time. From the very beginning, newcomers to our country have not always been welcomed. Germans first, the Irish later, and then later Southern Europeans, Eastern Europeans were met with derogatory epithets and with discrimination. But they all assimilated, they became American. So much so that some of their descendants are so American they're willing to kick down at the latest groups. Sheriff Ohio, for example, Lou Barletta, I could go on and on. So somewhere along the line, we call ourselves the country of immigrants, but the melting pot became a boiling cauldron. History has a lot to do with it. So our very first immigration laws to restrict immigration were passed in the early 1920s, and at that point, the people decided that what they wanted was immigrants who came from countries of people who were already here. So this clearly favored people from the British Isles, to some extent Germany, but it did not favor people from Southern and Eastern Europe. And so when Hitler began creating refugees and people were clamoring for refuge, all immigration laws were not up to handling that. We've had several immigration reform laws since, but I think the most important one is the 1955 Hart-Celler Act. Hart-Celler, for the first time, imposed numerical restrictions on Western Hemisphere immigrants. 1965, for the first time. It did one very good thing. It abolished the egregious practice of restricting Asian immigrants. We had said only 100 per year, but it had one very bad factor, and that is it abolished the Rossetto program. The Rossetto program had given us agricultural workers when we needed them. And when we abolished it, we still needed to eat, and we still needed agricultural workers. And so instead of coming in legally, they came in a non-documented factor. And that was the beginning of what we now call illegal immigration. We've had several reforms since, but none of them have addressed our economic needs in our form, and they've not really taken very much consideration about our international obligations. One attempt, of course, was the passage of a diversity visa, which Trump now wants to abolish. But I want to talk about our economic needs. If you poll Americans, most people will say, the polls show that by majorities, people think immigrants are a net plus, and they are a net plus, and they're a net plus economically. So, demographically, they're a net plus because we need a healthy replacement rate, and we don't have that at the moment because we have a low birth rate. So immigrants traditionally have helped us to have a healthy replacement rate, and without a healthy replacement rate, the economy doesn't grow. Now, the other complaint about immigrants is that they take our jobs, and that they cost too much. But in point of fact, immigrants are net gain economically, even in state and local jurisdictions where children of immigrants have to be educated. If you take into account the economic activity that they generate, the multiplier effect of that economic activity, they are a net gain for state and local jurisdictions. In New Hampshire, immigrant entrepreneurs produce 21,000 jobs. In Vermont, the smaller state with fewer immigrants, only 4,000. But that's a net gain in jobs. Nevertheless, there is this extreme resistance to immigration on the part of our population. as to not only protesting what they call illegal immigration, but also to restrict legal immigration. As we focus on what's going on at the border now and the terrible things that are happening to children and their parents, we should also remember that in the background there is a proposal to restrict family-based immigration and to restrict possibly by half the number of legal immigrants, people with green cards. They would limit the ability of parents and adult children and siblings of American citizens. And one of the reasons for this is because since the early 80s, the middle class has been in trouble, and they blame immigrants for this. Immigrants are not to blame. This is because of policies and laws that were put in place by Americans, not by immigrants. Then there's a fear of losing a white majority. But they don't realize that immigrants today are assimilating and intermarrying at the same rate as previous immigrants. So who knows what color the offspring of these intermarriages are going to be? You can't rely on linear reasoning. And I'm going to conclude by emphasizing how important assimilation is. It is absolutely not true that people coming to this country today cannot assimilate. We should remember that most of the earlier immigrants were not wealthy, high English speakers with university degrees. They were mostly looking for a better life. I want to conclude with enforcement because spending $25 billion to build a wall not only is a tremendous waste of money, it does not provide us with adequate enforcement. A better approach would be to ensure that we have sufficient means of legal entry for the workers that we need and for the population that we need. So I want to conclude by saying, you're going to want to ask, what can you do? And what I can say is, inform yourself, advocate, but above all, vote. Vote so that we can have a Congress that will give an immigration law that is consistent with our values, responsive to our needs, and enforceable. Thank you.